Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bridge and Political Cloud. Sorry about last week. I wasn't well. A slight infection in my ear and my throat. I was very sore. So all you've got out of me is a few squeaks. So sorry about last week. Have got stable internet now. Stable-ish. Better than what I've had in the past. But yeah, what have I got for you today? Well, I'll give you a slight update on the chaos that happened 2 weeks ago with the fairways and the Atlantic hotels. I've also got a talk about Coity Primary after a question was asked by Sarah Murphy in the Senate this week. Also, I'm going to update you on Coity Higher Community Council, some exciting times there, and whatever else happens. I'm on my own today. Nobody with me. Don't mind. I'll try and schedule a live stream next Sunday, but I'll do it early this week and see if I can grab some councillors to come and join me and talk about different things within the county. Anyway, let's get started. A little update on what happened 2 weeks ago with the residents at the Atlantic and Fairways. Just an update on some of the residents and myself. I've spoken to a few of the residents, some of them. Most are happy with where they are for now. And the ones that are waiting on their premises that they were already nominated for to move into are happy that it's going to be happening very soon. So are happy to wait. From what I'm aware, there was 3 people in the Atlantic who were offered what's called floor space. Now, for those who don't know, floor space is generally used for homeless people on cold winter's nights or nights when it's absolutely raining outside like it is tonight. Place opens up at roughly about 8 o'clock at night, and people come in off the streets and they can sleep on the floor in a room. It's temporary shelter. Now, I know 3 residents were definitely off that. I don't know if any more were. Out of those 3 residents, I know 2 have found it not suitable and are now sofa surfing with friends, family, wherever they can get somewhere. Because being out on the streets all day with all your stuff is not feasible, especially when you come from a temporary accommodation as it is. The 3rd person I don't know about. I can't get any information from them. I don't have their number. There's also a couple I have heard. I've tried contacting them to no avail. They left on the Thursday evening before the Friday deadline. They were offered a place in Brynmenyn. Now, the mail there had been threatened by people in Brynmenyn and even received a text saying, "We can't wait for you to get here." For some reason, they found out they were coming. So they decided not to. They went and stayed with friends on the floor in friends' house. I have heard that they're no longer there and they're actually on the streets. I can't confirm that. I haven't been able to speak to them. Anyway, my situation is I'm currently staying in a HMO run by Valleys to Coast, owned by Valleys to Coast and managed by the Woolwich. The workers for the Woolwich are fantastic. I can't fault them. They try and do everything they can to help us here. There's 4 of us in here at the moment. Only I have come from the Atlantic or Fairways. The other 3 are new to the temporary housing situation. I was told it was only going to be for a couple of weeks until the end of the month, and then something was going to happen. But I've since heard that what we were told and basically promised is not going to happen now at the end of the month, which has caused some anxiety with myself and my son, because he is a whole different thing I won't explain now. Anyway, what's my current digs like? It's not the best. I do miss the Atlantic in some ways. It was great having. I do have my own room here, but I had my own room there. I had a private bathroom where I could go to the toilet, and I didn't need to leave the room if I was having one of those days. I didn't need to go to the toilet or to make myself a coffee or anything like that. At the moment, I've had a couple of bad days, and it's hard going out, and it's hard adjusting to living with three people you don't know. There's stuff that they do that annoys me, and I'm probably do stuff that annoys them as well. But it's difficult when you're all in a temporary situation. This isn't a permanent situation. At least we hope not. Anyway, I have got some pictures. There are some faults with the place, and it's not great. We had the day I moved in, I was offered a room upstairs. I was told because I was the first one here, I could have my pick of rooms. There was a room upstairs, one at the front, and oh, sorry, 2 seconds. Sorry, I thought it might have been Jacob. Um, Room upstairs, and when I went to go in, we couldn't lock the door, which made it pointless for me to go in there. So I came down to one downstairs. It was much easier. It's right next to the kitchen. Coffee, I don't have to walk past anyone. I can hold the toilet. Coffee's a different thing with me. I've got to have a lot of it. Anyway, there were some problems. When I did move in, there was a leak coming from the bathroom, which was coming through the ceiling. I do have a picture. It was coming right next to the light fitting in the kitchen, and it was dripping down. We had a bucket underneath. That took. So far, the leak isn't coming through the ceiling anymore, which is a great thing. We've had a plumber come out 3 times now. The first plumber completely missed the original leak, which was coming from the toilet, which was flooding the bathroom, and just put some silicone on the edge of the flooring, which has stopped the leak coming from downstairs, and on the edge of the shower unit, on the shower door. But that hasn't stopped the leak from the shower because it's a walk-in shower. The floor's a bit too level, and it's not enough of a lip at the bottom. Your feet are like they're in a bath, and the water goes over the level of the seal on the door, and it runs out and floods the bathroom floor. We've had another plumber come in and fix the leak in the toilet, but not the leak in the door and shower. We had a plumber come on Friday, or Thursday it was. Had a phone call from Woolwich. Will you be there? There's a plumber coming. I said, yeah, fine. Plumber came. I had the phone call. He was already here upstairs when the other people had let him in. He took a look at the door. He took a look at the leak and said, I need to get my foreman, and went, and that was it. We haven't heard anything since. The bathroom still floods when you have a shower. And there's 4 of us here, so and there's no bath, so it's a shower. I do have some photos of the place and some of the problems. I'll explain them as I go on. The first few photos are actually from my bedroom, from where I sleep. Basically, I live and reside. So I'm going to add them to the stream now. And as we can see, this first photo is of my wall just above where my computer is now. I'm looking up at it. As you can see, it's not the prettiest. It does require decoration. It's only decoration. It's not the thing. It's the same with this next picture over the other side by the fire door. Wallpaper ripped off the wall. The whole room needs to be redecorated. Here's where my biggest problem is. That is in the corner of my bedroom. Down by the side of the wardrobe, I had to move the wardrobe slightly to actually. And I saw something down there, and I moved my wardrobe slightly, and that's what was there. That's mould. That's in my room, so I got that. I've got a slight bit of mould by the head of my bed as well on the wallpaper, but as I say, this whole place needs redecorating, but it's home for now. Next, I'm going to show you pictures of the kitchen. Now, the kitchen is good. I've got a cooker. I've got a cooker in there, which is, it cooks things, but not very quickly. I put some sausages in the other day in on a metal tray. There were peri sausages, and they took 2 hours to cook. And by the end of it, I could pick up the foil tray that the sausages were in with my bare hands and just pull it out, not feeling much heat at all. It took that long to cook. It's not great. This is the ceiling where I said the leak was. Now this is still as it is, and as you can see right by the light, that's where all the water was coming down, a drip of water. And apparently it's been like that for quite a long time. Wallich have been trying to get somebody out to do it, and Valleys to Coast have been dragging their heels on doing it. Next, that's a hole in the kitchen ceiling, some random hole. I'm guessing a pipe leaked at some point, and they cut a hole to fix the pipe and just left the hole. As you see, it's not great. There's a slight bit of water damage over there and that. And next, again, we have mould in the kitchen. This is by the refrigerator in the kitchen, the fridge freezer. Yeah, it's not good. It's not great. And considering what they're charging, I'm going to stop sharing the screen now and come back to you. Right, considering what they charging, okay, I don't pay it because I'm not working, and the council have to cover that because I'm in temporary accommodation. What they're charging the council is to stay in this for me one room, £174 per week, not per month, per week, which adds up to nearly £700 per month just for one room, really. And it's not great. I do have to pay £15 a week service charge that goes apparently towards electric, gas, water, and internet, which is a little bit more than what we had to pay at the Atlantic, but I've got internet, which is a good thing. How am I doing here? I have good days and I have bad days, like normal. It's very, very stressful living with three people I don't know. It's hard to hide away in my room all the time because there's things I need, like the toilet. I need to make coffee. I need to go outside sometimes, and my anxiety hasn't been great. I have had a couple of days where I just haven't got out of bed. I just stayed in bed. But generally, it's okay. I shouldn't complain. I really shouldn't, because there are people in much worse situations than I am. But I've got to think about me at this point and my mental health, and my mental health isn't great. I have times where I just burst into tears. I was driving Jacob back from drums on Wednesday, and we were just singing along. Both of us, we were singing along. I can't remember to what. I think it was "Take That, the Flood." And for some reason, I just started crying. In the car, just started crying. And it's hard because it just happens quite often at the moment. I've had several panic attacks since being here, but there's nothing new at the moment. There's nothing new from the last 5, 6, even long since the start of the year, really, having panic attacks. But yeah, it could be better. It could be a lot better. It could be a lot worse. So I'll try not to complain as much. I know that's not in my nature, not complaining. I seem to do it an awful lot, and I know people say I'm silly that I should complain if there is something to complain about, but sometimes you just think, oh, people are just going to ignore you after so long and say all he does is whinge and moan. Anyway, let's get off that because, yes, it was upsetting. We're going to move on now to tonight's main topic, which was Coity Primary, and the question Sarah Murphy asked in the Senate. Now, I know some of you haven't been able to see this. I did post a link to the video on the Political Owl. Some of you haven't been able to see it for some reason. You've been blocked by Sarah Murphy. But I'm going to play the clip in its entirety. It's 3 minutes long. She asks 2 questions here, but we're going to focus on Coity Primary as it is today. So let me just get my screen up to share. Right, hang on. I need to sure I've got the right. Yeah, that's right. Ready. Share. Let me just press play on that. Right, there we go. That's the end of that. As you see, Coity Primary was mentioned there, and as Sarah Murphy said, there's news on Coity Primary expanding. It's bittersweet news, really. Amanda Williams did talk on this 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, her internet connection wasn't the greatest, so it was very bitty. But I can give generally what's going to happen. They are looking to expand the school for another 120 pupil places in the school, which ideally would be great news, would be fantastic news. But there is a problem. Currently, they have this expansion would take away a playing yard for the children. You're adding an extra 120 children and taking away one of their playing yards, which it's not feasible, it's not sensible, it's not right. Children need their breaks. They need to go out and play, especially getting fresh air and on the nice warm summer days where they've been stuck in a classroom and that. The other problem it presents is there's not going to be an increase in capacity for the school cafeteria. Now you're adding 120 pupils, not increasing the capacity of the cafeteria. As I understand, I think Amanda Williams said that lunchtime starts at 11:30, finishes at 1:15 currently. because of the size of the school and the cafeteria. That's how long it takes to have every child have their lunch, which is important. It really is important. But if you had another 120 that without increasing provision of lunch places, and by the time this is built, and by the time those 120 pupils are in there, they'll be entitled to free school meals. So they'll have to look to extending lunchtime even longer, starting at 10 in the morning, probably, and going on till 1:30, which will mean that the school spends more time with lunches than they do actually in with the classroom. I know you can stagger this, and I know it's a thing, but what child needs their lunch at 10 o'clock in the morning? It's not right. Well, there is a need to build these places. This school was built poorly to start with. It was the formula was never right for the amount of people in Coity anyway. And with the expansion of Parkville, the extra houses, the extra building, it was never going to be feasible. So while there may be enough school places in Bridgend for each child, they're not always a local school, a school that people can walk to. People should be able to walk to, and walk to within a reasonable safe distance, not the 2 miles currently for primary and the 3 miles for secondary, which is another bone of contention. Which I give credit to Sarah Murphy. She keeps calling for the Senate to release the paper that was done before the Senate elections 2 years ago, over 2 years ago now, and still hasn't been released, and is on hold indefinitely into school transport systems, which is a joke. Why hold it for this long? It should have been released before the election. We know why it wasn't, because that may have had an effect on the overall outcome. But I think there's a bigger issue here with BCBC planning as a whole. Because if we look at Coity Primary, it's built completely the wrong place. They built the estate back to front instead of front to back, so it makes it difficult. It was never built to the right size. I think it was built the wrong way around as well, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a drop-off point in that which can't be used because of how the school was built the wrong way, which causes chaos for the people living around the school, with parents parking to drop the children off. And I know not every parent wants to do that. We do it as convenience and that, and especially on days when the weather is awful and it's raining. You don't want your child to walk into school soaking wet. It's uncomfortable for them. It can cause illness. This is part of an issue with the extending the distances on how far you can walk. Yeah, so it's another thing with BCBC. If we look at Bremen Primary, it's had a problem with its drop-off recently, and it's still ongoing, and it's causing problems for residents. The same with Pencoed Primary. These are all new schools that have recently been built, so there's obviously been a failure there. And if we go back a little bit further to when my Stead Comp was built, and the unfortunate tragedy that happened with the school drop-off, with a child losing their life, and BCBC just seem not to have learned their lessons in this. The problem with Bremen Primary is you've got a secondary school, Colin Gutherwin, built there. It was, in my opinion, it was built wrong. It shouldn't have been right up against the road like as it is. It should have been further back at the other end towards the path at the river, which creates a large open space in front. At the moment, there's You drive past the school, it feels like it's looming over you and could topple on top of you because it's overshadowing the road. And then you've got Bryn Primary there. Yes, we used to have two schools there in Archbishop and Anasoundra, my old school, Anasoundra. But you've also, since that development of the schools, you've had an assisted living facility built and several houses built on a land that really two schools were on before. Now you've got two schools and assisted living and housing. It just seems to be that they put things where they shouldn't be put. But as I say, it seems to be a failure with planning, with the planning initial stages now, what is going on and what can be done. Um, and unfortunately, I don't know the answer to either. I know maybe the scrutiny committee can look at a long term and the long term of what has happened with planning. Who knows? There's also a problem with. We'll come off the schools for a second, but could keep on the planning side of it with the recycling facility at Village Farm Industrial Estate. Um, it's been built. It was part of the contract 5 years ago when Kia were given the contract for the recycling that they had to build a facility on Village Farm Industrial Estate. 5 years later, it's not open. Whispers are there's something that the environmental agency are refusing to sign off on it, which again is a failure in planning. Why wasn't these addressed during the planning, the original planning, or during the building of it? If there was environmental concerns, why have we waited till a facility has been built and can't open because the environmental agency won't sign off? So I think the department as a whole needs to be looked at, because there's too many recent failures, especially with schools. Um, and it's very important with schools because the children and lives are at risk, especially with drop-offs. And causes animosity with the people who live around the schools, um, because parents that are parking on streets. We've seen one street in Anasoundra, the residents blocked it off with lawn chairs and sat in them to stop people parking there. It creates a standoff and creates an animosity. I know the residents don't really blame the parents, but they've got no choice to keep their streets safe, to be able to get out of their driveways when they need to live in a safe environment. So is the answer a scrutiny committee looking at it if they can? I don't know. I really don't know. Others can answer that. But I think at the minimum, the planning department needs a major overhaul because they calculated wrong the amount of places needed for Coity. They bus children from Coity Village to the school because there's no safe route to walk. That should have been put in place before the school was actually built. And the community council in Coity have tried with a path, trying to get footpath built on Hill Spencer, to no avail at this point. It's very slow progress, very slow moving with the council, with the county council. We come up with solutions, they throw up roadblocks, we get those roadblocks out the way, and then they put up more. It's slow progress, but there is actually progress moving now. What will happen, I don't know. When will it happen? I couldn't tell you either. As we know in politics, in council ways, things move very, very slowly unless there's a crisis. Okay, so it was good to hear Sarah Murphy talk about that, but this has been something that's been going on for since the school's been built, and we've had people like Amanda Williams who's been banging on this for since before she became a councillor in 2017. She's a school governor and been a school governor in all that time, and she's been pushing and pushing, trying to get a solution. And just when she thinks the council come up with a solution, adding another 120 places. The solution is to take a playground away from the children and not to increase the facilities at the school, i.e., the cafeteria. It and it just seems you make one step forward and then it's two steps back. There will be a consultation coming up for the increase of places of school. I urge everybody to put your opinion on that consultation. I will post it as soon as it comes up. I'll get Amanda to send me the link and I'll post it on Political Owl, and please put your thoughts on there, as many of you as possible. There's got to be a better solution than taking away a playground that the children use, that the children need. They don't even have a netball court at the school, which is a shame. It really is a shame. So, yeah, it's been a long fight for Amanda, and she has been with with residents and governors of the school, the champions of getting extra places there. But when they get offered the extra places, the council have now got the money from Persimmon to build extra provision school places. Their solution is not a credible one, not one that's going to work in the short term or the long term. But on another note, the Minister for Education there said councils need to plan 15 years in advance on their school play system and work developments around that work, plan their developments around the infrastructure. It's not just schools, it's medical, which we're short of, especially dentists, which is a completely different matter. There is no NHS dentist taking on in Bridgend at the moment, I believe. That's been a discussion we've had on with a few friends today. And especially with doctor surgeries as well. When Park Derwin was built, there was I'm not sure if I remember correctly whether there was supposed to be a medical facility built on the area, but it didn't happen. They expanded Tenocoid Surgery and Sarn to take on these extra patients, which is going to cause a problem with the Tom D development now. That was given approval several years, 5 years ago now, 4 years ago now, and so where are they going to get their medical facilities? Because there was supposed to be a medical facility built where B&M Bargains and Lidl and all that were, but they couldn't get a medical facility there. The NHS wouldn't put one there, so they did it for retail instead. Now, when planning of large estates like Park Derwin, like the Tom D development, to happen, they need to coordinate with the NHS to say we need the infrastructure for medical facilities here. We can't give the go ahead to these large estates, which we do need. We do need houses, and we know that, and they need to be built. They need to be built in the right places with the right infrastructure. But they need to bring the NHS in and say, look, we need a doctor's surgery here. We need a dentist here. What will you put in there if we help in some way? Which I think the council is going to have to start to do. I know they don't have the funds for it in this current climate and that, but unfortunately needs must. But at the moment, with any planning development done through BCBC, I'm not sure that I would trust anything going through. The councillors get the information, and they get information. They see the information they're given, but there may be other information out there, and that may not work with what BCBC want. they want a certain development to go ahead, a school or a recycling centre. So they'll give the relevant information that I'm guessing they need to get through. I'm probably wrong, but there's also there's so many other information out there. I think another example of poor planning is the wellness centre by Sunnyside, the former council offices and the magistrates' courts. They're placing a wellness centre there. Park Street has an air pollution order on it, and they're going to build a wellness village next to a road that has an air pollution order on it, which is a wellness village will increase the traffic coming down that road, coming to the area, which is not going to do anything for your um, air pollution order, and there doesn't seem to be a sensible solution. And again, obviously, this seems to be a failure with the planning department within BCBC. I can't. Where is it? The people who are working at the lower level? I don't know. Is it the upper management? Certainly, they have some responsibility to uh, take on their shoulders there, because there's something seriously wrong. And how many more developments are we going to do it? How many schools are we going to? They're going to keep building wrong, because they've got more schools in the pipeline, more new schools in the pipeline to be built in the next couple of years. How, what are they? How many times are they going to build a school wrong and something else unfortunately tragic happens? It's something we can't afford. We should be proactive instead of reactive to things, and unfortunately, the BCBC seems to be reactive rather than proactive. Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. It's good to see Sarah Murphy doing it, but she's 5, 6 years behind the time. She's been in the Senate now for over 2.5 years, and this is the first time she's bringing it up. She could have just spoken to Amanda 2 years ago, and Amanda would have given her everything she needed. But unfortunately, things seem to take time. The things that you need to get done take time, and the things you don't need to get done seem to come along very quickly and in and out as quick as a Chancellor of the Exchequer at the moment. But yeah, anyway, next I'm going to move on to Coity Higher Community Council that I'm on. We a few updates for you where I can update things. The meeting is public. There was a lot said in the meeting. There's some stuff I don't want to say. Well, I do want to say yet, but don't until we've got more information and more traction on things. But anyway, I'm going to start with the bad news. And we're going to start with the Hilo Grace Play Park, which is right next to Mitchell Primary School. For the last 35 years now, Coity Higher Community Council has been maintaining that, refurbishing the equipment, replacing it when needed, and even they've done in that time 2 complete refurbishments of the park. Back in 1987, the Community Council took on a 364-day lease to maintain the park. I don't know why it was just done for that time. It seems very strange, and we'll come on to something a bit later similar to it. It seemed very strange for 364 days. But the problem was neither the Community Council or at the time what was Micklemorton Council cancelled the lease. So apparently we've been maintaining it and think what have you. Now, Coity High is quite a progressive council. We take on quite a few play parks over the last 5 years. I believe 5, maybe 6 at all. Martin can Martin Williams could probably comment better on that. But 5 or 6 over the last 5 years as community council, it's something we've planned to do to keep these assets in the community so that they benefit the community and the people of the community. We maintain them. We refurbished, I think, all but one that needed refurbishing. Most have been asset transfers from BCBC, meaning we have roughly a 35-year lease and we pay a peppercorn rent, which is roughly about £5 per year, which is not much in the grand scheme of things, but we maintain the park, and if the equipment becomes damaged or needs to be replaced, we do that. There is one play park on Jocelyn Terrace that was actually given to the community council by Clanmore Homes. We own that park now, and it came with a nice little bit of land where people can walk with some nice trees and that. So we actually own that land, which is nice. So with Gila Gross Play Park, we wanted to take over a tenancy on a lease for about similar to the other ones, which would be about 35 years peppercorn rent, so we could protect the asset for the community. Unfortunately, because it's right next to Litchard Primary, BCBC don't want to do that in case they need to extend Litchard Primary or another reason, which would mean that we could still do the maintenance on the park if we wanted to, but it would mean if we completely refurbish the park, the next day the council would come back and say, we're taking the park because we need to extend the primary school, we need to build on that land, which would be a complete waste of money. So it was agreed at the council meeting this week, unfortunately, that we'd pay our last peppercorn rent and give 3 months notice on the tenancy and hand it back to BCBC to maintain. It's not something we wanted to do. It's not something we ever like doing, because we like protecting assets like that for the public to use, for children to use especially. But there was no way we could confidently say we could refurbish the park completely, which it has been done twice in the last 35 years, and not have the council come within a year to say, oh, we need the land. We couldn't be confident of that, and it wouldn't be good use of public funds. So we have agreed to write to the council to pay our last £5, and which is owed from previous year, not for the previous year, not for the coming year. So don't worry about that. We're not just giving them £5 to say goodbye. It's money that was owed from last year's rent, and we're giving 3 months' notice handing back the management of the park to BCBC. As I said, it's unfortunate. It's not something we wanted to do, but it's something we had to do because we don't want to waste public funds on something that could be taken away within a year. We'd prefer to use those funds somewhere else, somewhere more that we can do. On that note, we have an asset transfer team, a group that meets with BCBC and others about getting assets transferred to the community council so we can do things with them, so we can maintain them and keep them in the public, and so the public don't lose things. Like one example, the play parks. There's been some movement on Tramacastle. The play park that was been promised there for years since the development's gone up, which Aaron still hasn't seen. BCBC have received the money from Taylor Wimpey to build the park, but BCBC only have an obligation to build that within 5 years of receiving the money. We have contacted BCBC. If we could have money, we would build the park, because generally the community council can get it built cheaper. But we're having to liaise with Taylor Wimpey to build a path to where the park would be. So that's come up this week. We're progressing with that. So hopefully, good news, fingers crossed, and the wind's blowing in the right direction. There'll be a park on Tremacastel with as soon as we could possibly do it, as soon as all this goes through with BCBC and Taylor Wimpey. I'm not promising that we're going to do it because something could happen for the asset not to be transferred to us. But we are progressing to try and make that happen. It's something we've been working hard for the last couple of years to try and do it, and especially Amanda Williams again has been pushing as a county councillor to get this park built. There is a bit of progress, so hopefully that's good news and keep fingers crossed for that. Next, we're carrying on with asset transfers. There was discussions this week about the transfer of assets for Litchard playing fields and Community Centre and Great Western Avenue playing fields. We are taking the next step and telling the Bridgend County Borough Council that we're seriously interested and we want to progress further with this. It's been an initial stage. There's been reports and things done on that. We know we were offered initially a 35-year lease for Litchard playing fields Community Centre. Well, that seems a long time. We want to secure the area for a lot longer if we can, so we're going to try and push for a 99-year lease. Hopefully that will happen. If not, 35 years, there's still a lot we can do, and it still protects it for a long time. With Great Western Avenue is a slightly different matter. While we are progressing, we're progressing very, very cautiously because there is a piece of land that BCBC don't know who owns it on part of Great Western Avenue. Nobody knows who owns it. So last time we were offered the lease, they were offering 5-year lease, which is not worth anything to us. There's nothing we can do. Protecting it for 5 years it's not worth it. We're hoping that's been resolved, and we're hoping we can push a bit forward and get a longer lease on that, so we can do more, protect another green space in the community, which would be fantastic. It'd be amazing. But this shows you what a good community council can do. There are community councils out there that do a lot of good in the county as well. I'm not just saying it's Coity that does it, but we seem to be at the forefront of doing these things. We have been for 5 years. We're still doing it, and we're taking it up slightly. We've taken up a notch. We transferred the play parks that we could, and we needed the next progressive step. So that's obviously asset transfers, community centre fields. If it's viable, if it's a solution for us, if it's something we can maintain as a little cost as possible to the public, that would be brilliant. But it shows what a great community council we're doing. Also resolved this week, I'll update you on the bench for the Black Path. A while ago, it was agreed before the last election that we'd place a bench on the Black Path. We were offered benches by the Ramblers Association, and we agreed one could go down there. We've since had people asking if we could put a bench down there, and we'd already agreed it. It's not us that's delaying this at the moment. We're waiting for BBC licensing to give us permission to actually put a bench in. That is the delay at the moment. So it's BCBC licensing. We've got to get approval from to put the bench in. We're waiting on that. It's not a case of, we can put a bench there, we just go and do it. We have the same in Hendra. A little corner of Hendra. I don't know it that well, I'm sorry. I do apologise, but we're looking to put a bench, a floral display and flowers round by there to brighten it up for the residents who live in Hendra. It's very good. The bench is not the only thing we're possibly looking to do at the Black Path. I'm not going to say what we're going to do, or what we're looking to do or trying to do. And I'm not saying it's a guarantee that it will be done, but there are ideas coming from councillors like Lisa Lewis, like Darren Brown, new councillors on the council, which is fantastic to see. New councillors coming in with these ideas. This is what we need. This is what any council needs: is new blood to shake things up and take you in a new direction, and move you on a bit, because you can get a bit stale, you can get a bit stagnant. So yeah, they've come in with some fantastic ideas. Some might happen, all might happen, or none might happen. But it's something we're seriously looking at. It's something we're serious about doing. But there's a lot we need to understand first. How much of the Black Path is in Coity? How much things cost? What's the benefits? Does the cost outweigh the benefits, or do the benefits outweigh the costs? So it's a very cautious approach. I would love to say, yes, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. But as I say, with everything I've talked about, it's cautious approach. Everything's progressing, and progressing quite nicely in some circumstances, rather rapidly in other circumstances. But we're cautiously optimistic, I suppose is the term. Cautiously optimistic. I know there are fantastic things out there. Yesterday there were a few community councillors from Lalliston helping out at the veterans allotment. It was great. I know Lisa Lewis was there from Coity and Brackler. Lisa Lewis, community councillor Coity and Brackler, and Councillor Paula King, I know, was there from Lalliston and Community Council. I don't know who else was there. I've been invited to go down for a brew, but I know if Lisa's there, she'll be getting me digging or planting or getting mucky. I know that. Anyway, yeah, it's nice to see community councillors doing things. And now I'm living in Kennelly, because this is where my HMO is now, in Kennelly. I'm looking more. I like to go to a meeting, but they meet the fourth Wednesday of every month. And the problem for that with me is I take my son to drums on a Wednesday evening, so it might be difficult for me to go to one of their meetings and listen in. I hope I can at some point, because sometimes his drum teacher cancels the lesson because he's not well, or my son's not well, so I'm hoping one time it falls on the fourth Wednesday of the month so I can go see. I hope to speak to a few of the community councillors around in Kennelly and see what's going on and find out a bit more so I can update from Kennelly. I'd like to update from more areas. I'll try and do that. I know I've got people who can update me about Ansaldra, St Bride's, a projected town council at Lalliston, because as you know, I'm part of BCI and we have a lot of councillors on all those councils. 4 of those councils are independent majorities, BCI councillors, and let's see what the future will hold. Speaking of community councils, it'd be great if people could get involved whether you stand as a councillor. But I saw today there was an advert for a position of clerk. Now I know clerks, they're struggling to find clerks at the moment because it's sometimes a lot of work for a person to do. But you don't have to be a councillor to help your community council out. You can be a clerk, and whether if you've got the right job criteria, you want to help your local community council, you want to make things better for your community, this is a way to do it. I'll add the job advert to the live stream there. It's for Kennelly Community Council, funnily enough, which I've just been talking about. I was looking for a clerk and responsible financial officer. I have posted the link up on Bridgend Political Hour page. The link is also at Kennelly Community Council page. The advert is there, so go have a read, see if you fit the criteria. If you do, please seriously give a consideration to applying for this, you've got till 20th of October, which I believe is Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. So you've got till midnight, 20th of October. And it says the interviews will happen on the 27th of October. So if you seriously fit the criteria and think you can do the job and help your community council out, please consider applying. Not just for Kennelly, there are other community councils, I believe, in the county that are looking for clerks. And it's a problem at the moment. There's a lot finding somebody to do the job, and just nice if you can help out. Sometimes it's a full-time position, like it pretty much says there, 36 hours per week, near enough. Full-time position. Sometimes it's a voluntary position, just 1 or 2 hours a week, because of the size of the community council. It ranges from, as I say, voluntary 1 or 2 hours a week to somewhere like Bridgend Town Council, where you have quite a few members of staff working on full-time contracts. So please consider applying or looking at your local community council, see if they've got it, or a community council near you, and apply for it, because the community councils can do a lot of good work if the people are motivated, if the council is motivated, if the clerks are motivated. And the clerk is the backbone of the council. Without the clerk, not that us councillors will get much done. They really do some amazingly fantastic work, especially I've got a huge amount of respect, and I will always praise the clerk of Coity Higher Community Council, and Harris does a fantastic job for us. Fantastic. She really is at the moment the 14th councillor on the council. She gets so much of the work done for us, and sometimes the amount of work we were asking her to do, I think, how's she going to get it done? And she always does. She always comes back with a reply and answer for us. She does the research that's needed. She gets things done when we need it, and she really, really, really does a fantastic job. I can't praise her enough. Anyway, we're coming up to an hour now. I think my lone person watching, whoever you are, I'm guessing it's either Martin or Jacob. Thank you for watching for this long and listening to me ramble on. Hopefully next week I can drag kicking and screaming some county councils or community councillors with me. I don't care who. If you want to come and join a discussion and talk about your area, I don't care whether you're part of the party, whether you're independent, whoever you are, just come and speak about the good work you're doing, what you're looking to do, and how the public can help you and how you can help the public. But it's great to see we can only do this together as a group. But as I said, exciting times in Coity, hopefully over the next 5 years. We really are looking to push on with being progressive council over the previous 5 years, with all the asset transfers, play parks and refurbishment of those play parks, and now looking to do a lot more. It's great to see, and I hope it won't be long before I can bring you solid news of these things that are going on, proper solid news, and say, yes, we've done this. Brilliant. Look forward to it. Anyway, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for watching, for those of you who watch later on. So I know there are some of you out there that do. Have a good day, and I will see you next week. And I pray and hope I will have some guests with me, because nobody wants to listen to me talk for an hour or 2 hours, do they? Okay, night everyone. Bye.